Peace in YouTube. So we have about 44 or 45 days left until the 2019 SHSAT. So hopefully all you guys are excited. So I'm reviewing the 2017-2018 SHSAT Student Handbook here in the series. Anybody needs a copy, don't hesitate to email me. A few you have. It's not available online, at least it's very hard to find. So we covered almost all the ELA section of the first form. There's a second form. We'll decide whether to do that after this. What I'm going to do is just cover the last reading comprehension passage today, which is actually, it seems like a calmer passage. It seems to be easier, at least to me. Everybody's different. And we'll just do that. So it's probably going to go for about 20 minutes. I'm Greg from GregsTutoringNYC at gmail.com. I specialize in specialized high school tests and middle school tests and other kind of tests like that, the SAT, the SSAT, the ISEE, yada yada, including the SHSAT. So that's one reason why I'm doing this series. So why don't we just jump into this and see where we end up. Please like the video. Please subscribe to my channel. There's tons more that I do here. And I started this about a year ago, and I'll just keep continuing it for this and other related kind of tests and things like that. So let me just make sure the stream is live. Yes, it seems to be. So I shrunk down the passage. So take a screenshot of that if you can, or open another tab up and freeze frame the video, whether you're doing this live or on the replay. I see a few people live. So I'm going to bring it up once. That's the top part of it. That's the bottom part of it. I'm going to bring it up a second time. And that's the top part of it. And that's the bottom half of it. So if you're catching this on the replay, you can certainly pause it and read the passage that way. I mentioned a second ago that this seems to be an easier passage. So part of your prep is to try to figure out, oops, I'm in the way here, so let's do this one more time. I'll just scroll the last one, or I can bring it down twice to get the whole thing on there. That's the whole thing. That's up one, that's the top. That's the bottom. We'll do it one more time. That's the top. That's the bottom. Okay, so to me, it might be an okay passage, and to you, it may not. So there's different aspects. Some of these can be poetry. By the way, on this SHSAT, there was no poetry example, at least in this form. So what you need to do is also understand which passages you do well on and which passages you don't. Sometimes they're scientific, sometimes they're literary, sometimes they're biographical, sometimes they're really a passage from a newspaper. There's a whole bunch of different ways here. So try to find out the passages you're good on and which ones you're not. And sometimes passages are small and sometimes they're long. All the ones so far of these have been captured within a page. All right? So that's part of what you're trying to do, because part of the job here is to pace yourself. All right? So if you read this passage, as I said, what you can do is look at the questions first, read the passage, and then get yourself a snapshot of what the main idea is. So for those on the replay, the main idea of this is the same as that. You can even summarize this in one word. Now the specifics to whatever that is, the same as that, but that's this thing right here. That's what the whole passage is about, going back and forth about various aspects related to it. Okay, and if you notice, that isn't really introduced until the second paragraph. And other videos I explained how to find out the main idea of a passage. But this one's pretty clear because the intro is still leading into what's happening about that. Even with the tiny passages, like there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 5 paragraphs. And normally that's about it. There's normally anywhere from 5 to 8 paragraphs. And we're going to have the same number of questions. We have 1 to 3. There's 6 questions here. So that's about average as well. It can go up to 8 questions or whatever too sometimes. All right. And there's 6 to 8 passages and giving back and forth. So currently there's about 48 questions based on that, on the reading comprehension part, plus the 11 of the other one. This is going up to question 57. All right. So we have that situation currently now as well. with the same number of questions. So the first question, number 52, is what is this passage? What do the following best tell us what this passage is about? Now that's slightly different than the main idea. It's not asking us what the main idea is here. But the passage is the main idea definitely covered the samizdat, and the passage also was about the samizdat. Okay? I'm assuming I'm pronouncing that correctly. So let's find the closest one that captures that this is about the samizdat. Okay? So E. What is this about? E. The Russian writers Boris Pasternak and Anna Akhmatova. I don't know how to say that. Doesn't matter. Anna. Is it about them? No, it's about more than just them. They become focal points because they're famous writers, but the passage is not about them. They're mentioned supporting what the samizdat was about and how they were related to issues involving it and involving, really censoring activity in the Soviet Union and stuff like that. So that's not it. Okay, F. The poetry published in the Soviet Union during the 20th century. No, it's not about that. It starts out by telling us certain things that it mainly started focusing on things like poetry and novels. But that's not what the whole thing's about. Okay, it turned into political and other stuff as well. So, and they're all given equal weight during this. G, censorship in the Soviet Union and the underground system that arose in response. That was what the whole thing was about, including even levels on here. And in fact, it says it. It focused mainly on whatever, right? And then it said by the 50s, so later on, it started doing things about governmental and political essays and stuff like that, okay? So G is spot on so far, and it's definitely better than E and F. And H, the reasons for banning writers who criticize the Soviet government. Even though people like Pasternak and Anna were part of that group, and also people involved in the samizdat were also being criticized and censored and banned. The super reason, so H is okay, but G is literally the reason. I mentioned something about yesterday. H almost supports G. In this case, it doesn't quite do it directly, but it's pretty close. All right, 53. Let me just make sure we're live, because I had a real nuisance of a problem trying to get connected today. YouTube changed a whole bunch of things about a week ago, and it's a pain in the neck to get on. Okay, where's the passage? 53. Which of the following is most likely an example of material circulated in the earliest phase of the samizdat? So this says most likely. So this is a little different than best, but we're still looking for the best. What's the best example of it? So they gave some sample information about what was going on during various periods. So what is one of the most likely ones going on at the time? So A, a letter protesting a writer's imprisonment. No, that's the same paragraph I showed you guys here that it started focusing on here. And later on, it gets into things like, if you look at the last word here, political essays and trial transcripts. So it's later on. So 53 is asking about the earlier phase. So it's not A. B, a short story. That sounds weird in the context that samizdat was about censoring, but that's what it's talking about up here. That's what it says. It focuses on literature, poetry, and novels. There can still be controversial literature, poetry, and novels. That's not even political or government in nature. It could be, something about like drug activity or illicit behavior or something that the government was just trying to suppress, and not necessarily directly political activity, like anti-communist or anti-socialist or something like that. So it could have been just normal literature. And censoring of different things like this is still occurring in countries of the world today. And some people could argue it's even happening to some level in the United States. Okay, so a short story fits perfectly to the beginning. Okay, that's literature, early literature, in the context of samizdat. A list of political prisoners. Again, that's more or less like a was. So that's later on. And if you think the answer is C, so this is another one. We did this on the last two YouTubes I did, the last two live streams, which is that if it was a list of political prisoners, it would also be A then. So if it was C, it would be A. And then if it was A, it was C. So they're equal. So there's no subtlety involved in here. So it can't be A or C then, because they're that close to being an answer to something. So if you happen to think it was C, then you have to happen to think it's A as well. So B's definitely the answer because it tells us, and then it's there. And getting back to the most likely, it literally says literature. So it's just poetry and novels. So a short story is right in there, okay? And then an article from a foreign newspaper. I think it talks about that. Over here, we'll be getting to news from the outside world. So this becomes a distracting kind of answer because it almost looks like, because this was mentioned up here in the intro, this is the intro paragraph, it almost seems like this passage is being done chronologically. And actually it is being done chronologically, but the intro part isn't. So it's not saying that samizdat was involving this first paragraph and everything in it. Okay? And then, by the way, that's here, and then, by the way, it's other stuff. So the journalism stuff isn't related to that either. Where was that question? So it's not D either. So 53 would be B. So 54 says a knock at his door in the middle of the night was 44 and 45. So let's find that. So that's this line here. Like other writers, Pasternak feared an appearance of disloyalty to the Soviet state would bring a knock at his door in the middle of the night. Okay, so what is that talking about? I think everybody would know, but let's just run through the examples. It's going to be the KGB, right? It's most likely going to be the KGB, the secret police. So what question was that? 54? Right. So it's going to be E, the secret police. This is one's a total no-brainer. A representative from a major publisher. They were publishing these documents, but it was through the underground, through each other and through other things like that. So F, it could have been somebody trying to publish these political works or whatever they were, but it was the secret police. That's why it says he feared them. If you come back up to here, he feared them. So he most likely wasn't going to fear a publisher. Most people would welcome a publisher. Same for a participant in the network. These were normally comrades, right? They were buddies. They were on the Underground Railroad equivalent, but in Russia, trying to smuggle things back and forth. In this case, basically data, which is text, copyrights of documents and books and so on and stuff like that, journalism stuff. So they probably didn't fear that person. Now, there may have been a spy representing themselves as a participant in the network, but that's not what that sentence is talking about. That's really pushing it, especially when E is so clearly the answer. And then people from other countries, that's really pushing it out there. Of course, if somebody from another country found out that he was disseminating information this way and wanted to help him smuggle it out, he also may have been nervous and stuff about it, but the biggest fear he's going to have is the secret police. Okay? That's a no-brainer. Which event led to a change in how samizdat was created and shared? So if we're reading the passage, we're right here. So computers became available. As scientific research advanced and technology escalated, Russia as well was getting computers and so on. So as computers were available, people were starting to exchange information, just like we do now with social media and so on. People did have emails back then, but it wasn't done through the web. So they had a scientific, passing it through scientific, maybe academia, schools, universities, and connections that people were maybe coming to a conference in the United States, and they would try to pass information along through that to friends they met online, and that they could do it. And there was also file transfer protocols at the time as well. That's kind of getting carried away because we're only supposed to use the information mentioned here, but it's pretty clear computers became available and they started using that to circulate the documents that they were using in the samizdat network. Okay, So what events led to the change? The government authorities censoring Anna's work. I'm sure that created a little political wave at the time. That's the paragraph before here. I'm sure as each major kind of catastrophe happened to a famous author or something, that they cracked down on them. But nothing's leading us to believe that anything really specific involved her work in terms of how things were created and shared, or it got more stringent, right? As the government detected how they were doing one version, they probably tried to squish how the network did it. But that's not what's going on here for 55. The increase, so what changed as well, and how it was created and shared, the increase in the distribution of political essays. That seemed to have happened because, again, it told us it started out as literature and poetry, and now it started moving into more politically centric kind of things. So that may have been true, but it's so indirect, it's really in left field. They're talking about not what was shared, but how it was shared. Okay? Pasternak winning the Nobel Prize, that certainly put a spotlight on the whole issue of this information sharing at this level. It's basically the information had to be brought out of the country and made Russia look bad. Communism was now under the spotlight even further, yada yada. So it wasn't C either. And then D, the rise in the computers of the networks, right? So D was kind of a no-brainer. Okay. Okay. What was the most likely reason that samizdat materials were unsigned or signed with false names? Okay. So this one to me seems easy, but it may not be to other people. It was to allow the material to be smuggled out of the country. No, even if they put a name on it, they were probably going to maybe misname it. You know, they were probably going to use a nom de plume or whatever, a pen name or some other name. So, and the most important thing was getting the information out at the time. Although we're starting to go into left field again because the passage doesn't really talk about these things. And again, they're asking the most likely reason, and they are asking you to make an inference here. So I guess E is feasible, but it seems weak. F, 56, F. To protect the writer from punishment. Yes. Yes, it's talking about Pastor not being afraid of the secret police knocking on his door. He was definitely afraid of punishment. So the other side of the coin is you could probably argue they probably knew who was writing each document. Each person had a different style, and probably some of them even signed it. Okay, but they didn't want to get caught. They didn't want to get thrown in jail or killed or whatever the case may be, as well as their families and stuff like that. So that's a reasonable inference to make, that they wanted protection from punishment, because censorship and so on is part of what's going on here. Okay, and although the passage doesn't come right out and say there was police activity and stuff, that's a strong suggestion and inference that we can pull out of the passage. So so F is definitely it. G, to avoid breaking censorship laws. Yeah, definitely G. But if they broke the censorship laws, they were going to be punished. So this is another scenario where G is actually a subset of F, and F is the super answer. So F wins, okay? And H, to differentiate between original and copied works. That's just kind of stupid. Although it was weird when they read that the author normally took back the original work. I guess that was to make sure it was controlled properly and it wasn't copied erroneously, because it's kind of like the telephone test. If I tell you something and you tell somebody else something, it starts getting errors introduced to it. I don't know. It's kind of a weird thing. It doesn't say why, but G is kind of a sloppy. H is kind of a sloppy answer, so it wouldn't be that. So F seems to win. Okay, that's the most likely reason that things were not signed or they used false names. 57. Why did the network quickly disappear in 1989? Now, if we get back to this is still highlighted. It looks like the network disappeared because of computers. Okay, but the next sentence is really the key to that. Censorship was abolished and publishing exploded. Okay, And then because previously banned authors were published now, the SAM-ISDAT network fell apart. It faded into history. In other words, it wasn't necessary anymore, or it was at least less than necessary. So let's try to find the answer to match that. 57A. SAM-ISDAT networks were unnecessary if the censorship was abolished. Boing. You win the prize. You win Jeopardy. B. Let's just run through all the examples anyway. SAM-ISDAT networks became regular publishing companies. No, it didn't say that at all. We can't even infer that, okay? So B is absolutely wrong. C. SAM-ISDAT networks were replaced by the use of computers. Yes, I think that was tied into it, but that's not the reason that I just highlighted the sentence saying that. So it's not C. It's the sentence after that it said that. And SAM-ISDAT networks, D, SAM-ISDAT networks went deeper underground than ever before. That may be true because there's probably still issues involved with censorship going on, but nothing in the past that tells us that. So D might be completely true. It might be the most truest answer, but the passage doesn't tell us that. So 57 is A, and we are done. The next section we're going to start going into is the math. Booyah! All right? So hopefully everybody's doing all right. Again, if you guys have questions, please email me. Please like the video. Please subscribe to my channel so that you can keep following stuff as it pops up. I try to do a YouTube around 5 o'clock every day, and weekends, Saturday and Sunday around 10. I might change that up. In fact, one thing I'm thinking of doing is doing a live stream, maybe, because I'm going to be in Manhattan over the weekend, maybe from Bryant Park. So if anybody wants to join me there, I might do a stream later on kind of announcing it. I'm not sure of my exact schedule yet. I will be in Manhattan, and this is something I think would be fun to do. But if any people following me want to go there, we'll either do a live stream of me doing another part of this, or we'll just do a live stream of everybody together, whoever shows up. You know, I wouldn't expect 50 people to show up, but if 2 or 3 people show up, that would be great. And it would be a wonderful experience, I think, for myself and for you guys. And we can go over some examples at the same time. Probably would take 45 minutes or an hour doing something like that. I need to think this through a little further. So let me end now, and peace out, people. So look forward to the math section starting tomorrow. Or actually, I don't know if I'm going to be able to make tomorrow. But let's see how it ends up. In fact, I'm going to be in Manhattan tomorrow, so I might even do a live stream from somewhere there. All right, guys, peace out.